While there is still no word on a cure for the virus,
report suspicious activity and call 911.
I can give you every assurance, Mr. Rudy, the girls is home and he's very
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad. We're a podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were. God, I try to do that in a whole breath. And raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. We are your hosts, Woody Brown
and Tyler Bence.
I feel like it's been so long, I don't even know what to do.
Yo, dude, I'm so lost.
Can I just be honest for a quick second and say that the last...
Hey, man, we're in the trust tree.
It's been a month now, and the last 3-4 weeks has felt like 10 years has passed.
Boy, has it ever.
And look, I don't want to spend a ton of time, because we don't have it.
Nope.
I don't want to spend a ton of time complaining about what's going on, but I think it's important that we kind of just give the listeners a little bit of a heads up. Mm-hmm. So, all joking aside, Tyler and I both have just been dealing with an insane amount of just, well, our families needed
It's a real show around here.
Yeah. One of my loved ones was very unhealthy and unexpectedly came to live with my family and I, and in my opinion, should not have been discharged from the hospital where he was. Mm-hmm. He should have been transferred to a facility where they could do like occupational therapy and physical therapy. And he had a lot of medical needs that, in the end of the day, turned out now admitted to the intensive care unit. So I don't want to start everybody's week with a big gut punch, but the truth of the matter is, Tyler and I both, we were just talking right before we pressed the record button, that one of the things that matters a lot to us, outside of just, being there, for our family and stuff, is maintaining consistency with our show. And so you have to know, listener, if we aren't here a week, then something real serious is happening. Yeah. It's nothing that we take super lightly and stuff. So both of us have just been going through the gauntlet of, just being there for our families. And it's so weird that it all happened at the same time for both of us,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, anyway. I mean, not to get like super detailed, but I mean, literally all this is happening on Woody's end. And what's funny is I had so much kind of going on my end, like my, long story short, we had this crazy stomach virus. We all get sick, the whole throwing up for 24 hours thing. And it sort of hits us like stair steps. And so my youngest, Elliot, while she had this stomach virus, unbeknownst to us, she also had a double ear infection, pink eye, which I had no idea about that. And then they thought when we took her to urgent care, they thought she had this thing called Kawasaki disease, which I'd never heard of, but apparently it's like really intense for little ones. So we take her to the hospital. She goes to the hospital. By the way, thank you so much for all our friends and family out there for sending like good thoughts and prayers and kind words. It really helps in those times, especially, there's just something especially about like when your kid is going through this, because you feel so helpless. And so fortunately, thank God, she only had this thing called the adenovirus, another thing that I'd never heard of. She gets to come home, which is great. And then because my wife took her to the Eggleston Child Healthcare, she ends up now getting this weird offshoot of the adenovirus thing in like her eye, and apparently you can like go blind from it. Her whole face like swells up. It's horrible. And then it goes into the other eye, and it's just, then I get sick. It's just like nonstop. Yeah. So, but I think we're back.
Yeah, and so it's like we didn't even have a chance, because so many things happened at once. We didn't even have the chance to really like update each other. Yeah. It was just like both of us kind of just had to check in with one another. And it was like, whoa, this is going on. What's this? Oh my gosh, And so we're dealing with family emergencies, and we are still kind of in the thick of it. So in between going to visit my family member in the ICU and stuff, we wanted to kind of sit down and talk to you guys. And because believe it or not, there's a lot of different ways to kind of cope with things that you're going through. Luckily today we kind of have a quick second to sit in this. I mean, this is literally like we're shooting from the hip. Is kind of like the terminology. Like we're recording this the day before it's going to be released, which we never do. And we had just a quick second. Everything sort of lined up. And so I thought what we would do is talk about this interesting article that I read that came out this week while I was just sitting there in the ICU. This popped onto my radar, and I thought, And I kind of filed it away as something to talk about on the show, and here we are.
Hey, real quick, pal. I know that we talk a lot about being like committed, but I mean, did you not just want to like bust out an episode in the ICU?
Yeah, I mean, not really. All right, man. I don't know if you saw this. I saw this headline and I thought, what is this person talking about? Now, one thing that we've talked frequently on the show about, and as everyone who starts to listen to our show and has been listening to our show for any amount of time will know, I'm a fan of time travel. I just love it, okay? And I love the idea of time travelers. And here recently, we talked about John Teeter again, thanks to our listener story submissions.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that kind of stuff. So one thing that we noticed over the last year or so is there's this there are a couple of quote unquote time travelers currently on the internet on various platforms saying that they're time travelers. And there's a couple of different sort of mysterious avenues and things that are happening that we want to talk about on the show. And so I'm not sure if this one is the one that is kind of famous on this platform, on TikTok.
I don't have TikTok. Do you?
Yeah, I don't. No.
Yeah.
We have a That Would Be Rad TikTok that I started a while back, but I just don't even do anything. It's like,
all of our millennials out there are like, okay, boomer.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so here, the article, and by the way, guys, again, today's episode is going to be not as long as a typical episode, but we just wanted to jump in while we could and kind of talk about something interesting and kind of update y'all on what's been going on with us.
Yeah.
So here's the title of the article. Time Traveler claims hostile aliens are coming to take back Earth. Okay.
Wow.
It was published March 24th, 2023.
Now, real quick, just so I'm not like
just to interrupt,
just to interrupt,
because we got plenty of time for that.
No. But I do need like to sort of like set the stage. Is this an account that like has been around for a while and like claims to be a time traveler? I'll
be honest with you. All I read was the headline.
Oh, okay.
So I'm learning just as you are. So let's read it together.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Okay, pal. I can do without the attitude.
It says, it was close encounters of the absurd kind. A self-proclaimed time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials have, wait for it, arrived on Earth yesterday and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. A video depicting the supposed dystopian announcement has amassed 161,000 views, not as many as I thought it would, as well as ridicule from viewers who wondered if he was 1.21 gigawatts short of a DeLorean. That's amazing.
Clever. Yep.
Okay, let's see. It says, the champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, declared Eno Alaric, known as the Radiant Time Traveler, in the clip posted on March 23rd, 2023. The so-called interdimensional voyager, who claims to be from the year 2671, frequently posts his apocalyptic forecast to his 400,000 TikTok followers.
Wow.
His latest vision for Armageddon, which he'd been foretelling for months in various clips, warns of very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win, he says. Per one of the many videos, which feature trippy cosmic imagery and are set to epic music worthy of a Roland Emmerich disaster film. Thankfully, Alaric predicted that another alien dubbed the Champion, whose world was destroyed by the hostiles, would save some of us from Judgment Day. No word as to whether its spaceship plays the iconic Queen anthem upon arrival. On March 23rd, 2023, about 8,000 people will be taken to another habitable planet. Habitable?
I think it's habitable.
Habitable planet.
Boy, that's a weird
Hold on. People will be taken to another habitable planet. Habitable? What is it?
I don't know. It all sounds wrong now, though.
Yeah, another habitable planet. Yeah. About 8,000 people will be taken to another habitable planet. I said it right.
Yeah, you did.
The time traveler claims. Lo and behold, the UF Oracle, first, hold on, pause this. The guy that's writing this article has such an attitude, man. He's like making fun of this dude like crazy, but it's pretty funny. Anyways, it says, in the aforementioned video from yesterday, the forecaster claimed that our intergalactic guardian angel had touched down at 2 p.m. to select the elite 8,000. The champ then left at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that same day, around 10 minutes before the video went live, to embark on their mission, according to Alaric. The 8,000 have a long journey ahead of them and about 4 years since the champion can travel faster than light. Of course, this is per the clip, all right? It's unclear which individuals made the cut, however. Alaric claims that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders for their interstellar Noah's Ark. These 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Mankind is a threat to itself in many, many ways, such as fighting and causing the first nuclear winter. Although this Space Force better be prepared as the Distants who own Earth and erected the pyramids of Giza to prove this, hypothesized Alaric, touched down in 2024, per the clip. Despite his cataclysmic vision, the perennial doomsayer told Earthlings not to worry. He said, "I want you all to know that you are safe," assured Alaric. "I am trying to warn you all of what's to come." Well, go figure. He made many viewers want to time travel back to before they watched the video. Tomorrow he's going to have to explain why they didn't come, scoffed one naysayer. Another skeptic quipped, "Please let me know the lottery combinations ASAP, time traveler." One wondered why the champion left Alaric behind, given his spot-on prediction. This is far from Alaric's first forecast for the apocalypse. Recent predictions have included everything from a 750-foot mega tsunami devastating San Francisco in May to a group of teenagers discovering a T-Rex egg and a portal to other universes in Texas in July.
Whoa, that's cool.
And that's the article, huh?
What?
Yeah, that's not really a good, not a real good end to the article there.
No,
so.
I thought we were like just getting started.
Yeah, no. So apparently this guy has made a lot of predictions, and I've kind of heard, I don't know if he is the one that I've heard of that's the quote-unquote TikTok time traveler, but like we talked about in the episode with the listener stories, and I think that's season 3, episode 8, just a couple of weeks ago, there's the John Teeter Instagram account that we've seen. There are other kind of, remember there's that, I think she's Brazilian lady that was on TikTok that claims that she can speak alien languages.
Yeah, I kind of call BS on her.
Oh, yeah.
As much as it's so weird because I feel like I'm like true believer, but there's so much of this that like, there's something about like when it's like on like social media that like, and I don't really know why, because like if you think of it, sort of logically, like, it's like I believe in John Teeter, like totally. And, those were all just sort of like forum responses and like faxes and stuff to the Art Bell show. But there's something like, for some reason, there's like this like any new social media, like especially like TikTok, it casts this like different kind of like shadow of doubt on stuff that just because everybody's like trying to go viral and like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, man, there's like zero barrier of entry,
but it makes sense though, logically, like that someone would be, they're not going to like
tap into a mass source of mass communication.
Yeah,
sure, yeah,
yeah. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, That's why they call it social media, because you can interact and all that.
There it is.
Yeah, that was the advertisement given to you by someone in their 40s. So anyways, I thought that was super interesting. A lot of these articles kind of pop in. It's interesting that the beams of blue have kind of calmed down a little bit since what felt like, if this was the early 1900s or late 1800s or 1700s, what we would call like a flap of things happening, but that all kind of calmed down. I don't know. If you were a time traveler, let's say you traveled, I don't know, back to... See, that's the thing too, man. Like, future time travelers that would come to this time, our time down here,
our time,
I feel like they're a lot luckier than somebody that would just like pop into 1960. Like you really, although you could be more, if you had the right clothing, like the Men in Black, I guess, you would be more anonymous, or you could be more anonymous potentially, but like communication-wise, you can't really do a whole lot. You're limited. Travel is limited.
Yeah. So he's saying
that like 8,000 people are going to be taken away from Earth by this guy or alien person dubbed the Champion.
Yeah.
Now this sounds like something straight out of Dragon Ball.
I mean,
we'll get to that.
And that's the problem with this one. Like, as cool as it sounds, it's almost like too cool to sound like it wasn't written. Like I like the names.
The bad aliens are called the Distance.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome.
Yeah,
but maybe a little too awesome.
Right. It sounds like somebody's been reading too many manga.
All right, dude. So I know that we don't have a ton of time. But I got a little something I want to bring up. Let's take a break first, and then when we get back, we'll get into it.
Oh, cool.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
On June 14th, your favorite emotions are back on the big screen in Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
It's time to greet your Team Riley. It's anger.
Let me at him.
Fear.
Safety checklist is complete.
Disgust. Ew, ew. Sadness is in the house. Oh, no.
Hello, I'm anxiety. I'm one of Riley's new emotions.
Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
There's a part 2?
We're going!
Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you?
Is anyone out there? We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show.
Okay, so do you know, does this date sound familiar to you? August 23rd, 1974.
Man, it does, but I don't know. I'm not sure why.
Okay. Does the term the Lost Weekend ring any bells?
No, but it sounds cool as heck.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I had several of those in college. Is that what you-
Yeah, I've had several of those too. Okay, so what I'm talking about is this sort of iconic weekend called the Lost Weekend, where one of your favorites, one of my favorites, John Lennon, went off to New York, took a weekend away from his horrible, horrible soon-to-be wife, Yoko Ono, and hung out with his assistant, May Pang. Does this sound familiar to you?
It does a little bit, yeah.
What's funny is I had always heard about this, but I didn't realize that that everybody made such a big deal about it, like so much so that it was called the Lost Weekend, just because like him and Yoko had split up. By the way, I am a huge advocate for everyone who hates Yoko Ono. I'm not a fan of her at all. I think she is a talentless lady.
Yeah.
And I think she got her hooks in old John Lennon and kind of ruined something. Anyway, on this Lost Weekend, none of that is important. The important part, and the thing that pertains to our show, is this little article that I'm going to read.
Racist. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was lying naked on my bed when I had this urge, he recalled to Andy Warhol's interview. So I went to, and I guess that's Andy Warhol.
I didn't know we were starting, and I got a little nervous. I got to be honest with you. I'm like, where?
Tyler? Let me hit that again. I was lying naked on my bed when I had this urge. So I went to the window, just dreaming around in my usual poetic frame of mind. There, as I turned my head, hovering over the next building, no more than 100 feet away, was this thing with ordinary light bulbs flashing on and off around the bottom, one non-blinking red light on the top. Wow. Though sober, Lennon made sure to call for May Pang in an attempt to confirm his beliefs. As I walked out onto the terrace, she said, my eye caught this large circular object coming toward us. It was shaped like a flattened cone, and on top was a large, brilliant red light. Not pulsating as on any of the aircraft we'd see heading for landing at Newark Airport. Adding, when it came a little closer, we could make out a row or circle of white lights that ran around the entire rim of the craft. These were also flashing on and off. There were so many of these lights that it was dazzling to the mind. The pair both took pictures with their Polaroid cameras, but they showed nothing. It was an assertion that Lennon carried to his grave. On the lower left-hand corner of the artwork for Walls and Bridges, the album, Lennon wrote, on the 23rd of August, 1974, at 9 o'clock, I saw a UFO. Initialing the statement, but according to a friend of Lennon's, Uri Geller, who was like a famous psychic and sort of illusionist, magician at the time, the Imagine singer had a second encounter. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of part one of the whole thing. So he wakes up, goes out on the terrace, they're both naked. You know, they're having their super fun Lost weekend.
Just hippies, okay?
Total hippies. They walk out on the terrace, they both see a UFO that's like 100 feet or 100 yards away. It's so close, they can see the lights rotating. They say it's dazzling to the eyes. And so what's weird about this is years later, then to the second part, which already that's like pretty amazing. And it made such an impact that like on the cover of his album Walls and Bridges, you can see like he would do these sort of like sketches and you know, I mean, it's kind of crude artwork or whatever, but on that particular cover, you know, it does say on 23rd August, 1974 at 9 o'clock, I saw a UFO. So like, you know, that just shows like how sort of prolific or not prolific, but like poignant that moment was for him to like put it on an album cover, you know?
Yeah.
Had you ever heard about any of this?
No, I mean, I knew about like I remember there's like a moment in the Beatles anthology when they're talking about how they came up with the name The Beatles, and he kind of, in this interview, I think back in 1961, he kind of joked and said, yeah, this man from a flaming pie in the sky came down and said, from this day forth, you shall be called The Beatles with an A. And so even Paul McCartney, I think, had a solo album, Have It. It's not really that great, actually, but it came out, I think, in the early 2000s. That could be maybe 90s. I don't know. I just remember having it in my CD collection called Flaming Pie as like a little kind of nod to that. And then, of course, Oasis had a song called Magic Pie, where they kind of, another nod. But anyhow, that's about as far as I go with any kind of connection to what you just said.
So this was, I think a lot of, and see, this is, you know, sort of where a lot of the contention that I have with Yoko Ono comes from is like, I feel like there was so much about John Lennon's life, you know, post Beatles breakup, where he, you know, whether it be music or like his personal life, I feel like a lot of that was just sort of, you know, obviously like the super fans knew about it, but I think a lot of that stuff just kind of went under the radar. I mean, even, you know, a reported UFO sighting, you know, most people had never heard of. Yeah, because of the whole Yoko Ono thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like, you know, whenever I was younger, not to just completely steer this into reasons why we hate Yoko, but whenever I was younger, it was like the reason I didn't like her was simply just on the surface, like, she broke up with the Beatles, you know, but kind of like growing up, becoming more mature, understanding relationships and stuff. Now there's so much even more to that. Like John Lennon was still married when his wife walked in on John Lennon and Yoko Ono just laying in bed, and he's like, okay.
Yeah.
There's that. He didn't really give his oldest son very much care after that because he was just focused on Yoko. And so Julian Lennon didn't really have a great father-son relationship with his dad until much later. And that was part of the reason why I liked Paul McCartney better, because Paul kind of like took him under his wing and that kind of thing. And so like I had some resentment for Yoko there. But then at the end of the day too, it's like, he was madly in love with her, and I feel like she was a really controlling person too. Like I remember there's like footage where she's just like, he gets asked a question, she whispers in his ear, he answers the question.
And there was a lot of that actually.
You kind of wonder like, I mean,
I think that was was that like the Dick Cavett show?
There's that show that happens. I mean, there's just tons, man.
Yeah.
And so like that always
But I think on that particular one, like every question, he would not answer straight out. He would like wait and listen to what she said, and then he would say it.
Yeah. And I mean, it even took us like a long time to allow our girlfriends when we were in the band and stuff to like watch a rehearsal or something. We'd be like, no, we got work to do,
Well, and it was also like one of the things too that was weird.
Cowboy.
Cowboy. One of the funny, I mean, I know we're driving away from the dock here, but can you please?
At least we're on the dock for a second,
Yeah, I guess so. Can I tell the story, or can you tell the story about?
I mean, I don't really remember. I don't think as well as you, but
I'll tell the story.
I'll start the part where the part I know, and then you can fill in the blank here, because basically, like Tyler and I, this was post Modern Society. I had this like small little 2-bedroom apartment, and Tyler had come over, and we were writing songs that sort of under the side project name Southern Ghosts, which was a far departure of the stuff that we were doing in the Modern Society in our minds. We were like, we don't even want to, a guitar that plugs in. It's all going to be acoustic. We're going to really explore our folk roots and tell stories through that sort of microphone, essentially.
Right.
And or through that lens, whatever. And man, we wrote some really, really good stuff. And it was so fun because we stripped down, a lot of times, and I mean, when I say a lot of times people do this, I'm certainly talking about myself, but a lot of times in music, you can kind of use technology as a crutch. And what I mean by that is the more sort of like effects and things that you have and stuff, sometimes depending on how you use it, you can use it to enhance some things and make the song cool and sound and different, unique things, and that's awesome. But when at that time for me, it was like, I want to strip all that away and really kind of just focus on the story of the song and like, make that the focal point. Not that any of our songs weren't that way before. It's just that I wanted to try a different approach. We wanted to try a different approach.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, well, and also let me say that at least for me personally, and I feel like you and I both were kind of vibing on this for a while, but like, like I've said 100,000 times on the show, I grew up from like a really rural North Georgia, blue collar kind of background. So, and even more so, like on my dad's side, my grandfather, who I never knew, but he died when he was, in his 40s. But he played on almost every single one of those old famous like bluegrass records. He played on the Grand Ole Opry like every week. He was like a kind of an icon in that old school like bluegrass kind of thing of like the late 50s, 60s. And so I'd always kind of known that, but like growing up in that, it's like originally I was like a metalhead kid, and it was like, when you're young, you kind of rail against the thing that you grow up around. Obviously all my family are into country, and it was like I wanted to do the exact opposite of that. Well, fast forward, we've already had like a music career. We've toured, we've made albums, we've done this whole thing. And it was sort of like this sort of homecoming of like, okay, well, all that's over with. Now we're back home. And it was like this, I don't know, it was like a whole new world kind of opened up where it was like, wait a minute, there's some magic in this like setting. There's some magic in this music that, you know, we were so sort of, or I was so inundated with as a kid, you know, bluegrass and that kind of sort of Appalachia kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we really leaned into that like, well, how can we write songs and be songwriters like while sort of utilizing that lens, you know?
And it's funny, no matter how hard we try to do something in a certain way, it still just sounds like us, but you know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Maybe, heck, you know what? At the end of this episode, I'm going to throw a song. I'm going to throw one of the songs in there, and then folks can hear it. So now, if you want to hear more, then you become a member of our Patreon, a best friend, and depending on what tier you choose, you'll have access to that music. Yeah. So Tyler and I were at my apartment doing what we typically do, which was just like write songs. And we had written some song, and I don't even remember which one it was, but at this point, I think we'd actually recorded a fair amount of it. And we were like super excited about it, like hyper. And that's one of the things that just happens to both of us is we just get super hyper, super excited about a song, especially when it's done, and just letting people hear it. And so we had... at this part, I think you're going to have to take it away because I don't remember what. Okay. So Woody had just gotten off work. I drove down to, Gainesville, which was like 45 minutes away or whatever, to his little guest bedroom. We'd been working for 4 or 5 hours, and we were like, hey, let's show Ann. And then I can't remember if it was you or I, but one of us said, oh, hey, let's player this track like that you had added on like a mixtape CD, and make her and see what she thinks. And it was like some sort of like drum and bass, like electronic beat kind of thing. Like we made like a joke song.
It was like a joke song. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a already existing song, but like it just had like, I think you just threw it in our track or something.
Something, okay.
It was some, I can't remember.
So exactly. Like basically an acoustic song, and all of a sudden it's like something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And we were, we're thinking like, oh, she's gonna
start laughing.
Yeah, she's gonna laugh, and it's gonna be funny, and yada yada. Because just the nature of our relationship is always kind of that,
Yeah.
And so we walk out into the living room. Woody has his, his laptop, and he's like, we were both sort of like really sort of amping it up. Like, man, we're so excited, dude. We think this maybe like we kind of made a breakthrough. We think this may be one of our best songs. And so we play it, and before we could even like finish it, like, I don't even know how much of our actual song came in. It was just like, just the beat. Ann hits spacebar, pauses the song, and says, yes, this is exactly the direction you guys need to be going. This is the best thing that you guys have done yet.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And we're just sitting there, the wind was just taken out of our sails. And the joke was on us.
Yeah. And I remember just getting like, now looking back though, maybe it would have been bad, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I don't know. Like, I remember being furious, and then sort of just feeling like later on we'd see her just kind of like giving her grief and just be like, hey, yeah, it's not, because I think she could tell that we were pretty mad. She's like, no. I mean, guys, like what you had, like, I love that, blah, blah, blah. And I would say something like, well, I guess I just put something in like Kid Rockers or like cowboy.
And that became like the joke, like anytime, like we'd be like, hey, Ann, check out this new song. I mean, it's not cowboy, but it's still okay.
Oh boy,
man, that is a funny story. Yeah. Anyway, so getting back to Yoko Ono and why, and all the many reasons I hate her. No, I just got to say this before we move on to this second part. So I remember as a kid growing up and like, hearing all these stories. And again, this is for all of us folks that lived before the internet.
Yeah.
So you would always hear like stories, or you'd see clips on TV or whatever, where like what we're talking about, where Yoko Ono was kind of running the show. And like sort of the the logic side of me always just kind of thought in the back of my mind, well, maybe this is John Lennon we're talking about. This like a certified genius songwriter, a brilliant musician, like one of the, like an iconoclast. And so like, it was hard for me to not think that there was like, okay, well,
some art involved.
Yeah. She has to be so amazing. And we're just not able to see that. Like there has to be something that was so special about her and so artistically just brilliant that he was seeing that maybe the public and fans like us were not seeing. Well, then years later, we would see, like, there's a famous clip, I think it may have been Dick Cavett, another one, where they're playing with like Chuck Berry. And
embarrassing.
Oh my God, dude. I mean, she literally has not an ounce, not a drop of talent. She's literally just screaming over, again, John Lennon, and then beside him, like early rock and roll, like blues, like Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Arguably, probably like in the Beatles' minds, motivated them to become musicians because of his music.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And she's just screaming. And then, as the internet would come out, we unfortunately had the opportunity to hear like her solo stuff and her, contributions onto like those Lennon records. And it's just like this, like what, I mean, it really does feel like
he had to just be like straight up in love, man, for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, all that being said, so what we've established so far, John Lennon and his assistant May Pang, on their lost weekend, they saw a UFO. It was 100 feet away. They both corroborated the same events. They would all happen the same. I think he went on to draw like a sketch of it that would end up, it's like in somebody's big like collection. I can't remember. I just remember reading this whenever I first heard about this several years ago. But there was sort of this aspect of it. Well, now enter a guy called Uri Geller. He's an Israeli-born, psychic. He's sort of really heavy into, bending spoons and a lot of the sort of early days of not early days because that would be sort of the spiritualist movement era, but he like in this 70s, he was like going on late shows, bending spoons and which sounds kind of silly, but you would find out later that he was actually involved in a lot of the remote viewing stuff, with like the CIA and I don't think it was Project Looking Glass, but maybe it was, where he would come in and I think he played like kind of a leadership role to a lot of these remote viewers where they were basically sort of astral projecting or channeling these locations and places so remote viewing, if you don't know real quickly, you would have these people who were sort of psi enabled, if you will, where they would give them a location of a place. They would give them like people's names, faces or whatever, and then have them they would kind of go into like a quote unquote like trance type fugue state, and they would basically remote into these locations. Well, what was cool about this is and I'm kind of going off topic a little bit, but what I just have to say, what was cool about this is as it went on, they were finding that, I mean, it was getting wild. Like they were starting to remote view onto locations on the moon and weird stuff. And then they started messing around with and finding out that oh, well, it's they're not only remote viewing into these locations, but now they're also able to sort of move around on the timeline. So it's they're able to move forward and backward in time for these locations too. It gets real heavy, and I promise you we're going to have a full episode on.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to let you know that Uri Geller is, a lot of people would call him a charlatan at the time, but he did have a lot of legitimacy when it came to, the people that had all the money and these sort of black projects and U.S. military, they, at least those people believed in him enough to have him head up a lot of these programs.
Yeah.
All that to say, he was because of his sort of celebrity that he had sort of created. He was on all these shows. He was on like the Dick, not Dick Van Dyke, but like I've said, the Dick Cavett show. I guess the 70s, that would have been maybe Johnny Carson.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess maybe. All those like sort of late shows. He had kind of become a celebrity. So that's how he had connection to a lot of these people. And what's cool is like he kind of, and especially at the time, you got to think like this guy was looked at as like sort of almost like a mystic, you know? And so, you know, of course, people like John Lennon would probably gravitate to someone like that. So they were pretty close friends. But in his collection, you know, it's like he has like Salvador Dali's Crystal Ball. He has like a guitar that Mick Jagger gave him, Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves. He has like a legitimate collection of just being a celebrity through the years.
Yeah.
Well, he was actually really close to John Lennon. He actually has like a pair of his like round glasses. He has like his hair.
That's weird.
Well, but I mean, I think you got to think like it was probably John Lennon giving him this stuff, thinking like from the sort of mystic, esoteric side, you know? And so what's crazy though is, so he also lived in New York. This was like several weeks later, I think, after the UFO encounter. He lived in New York City in the Dakota building, and he got a call at 3 a.m, and it was John Lennon. And he said, "You've got to meet me. Something happened to me, and I know it's late, but no, you've got to come." And so Uri Geller would get up, and he would meet him at his hotel that he was staying at. And he said when he got there, Lennon was like super pale and shaking, and he thought something had happened to him. He's like, you know, what happened? And he said he reached into his pocket and he pulls out this little item and he hands it to him, and it's this tiny little like egg. He tells him that when he was lying in his bed, suddenly a strobing spear of light appeared, and an extraterrestrial hand kind of stretched out and gave him this object. Geller admits that his first questions, you know, was obviously like, "Hey man, what are you on? Like, have you been smoking?
Doing some LSD?"
But he swore over and over and over that no, this 100% happened. This is for real. And he said he asked Uri Geller to hang on to it. And he said, it's not a rock. Nobody knows really what it's made of. And, you know, like, I guess still to this day, Uri Geller gets tons and tons and tons of emails. And like, funnily enough, like out of his whole long career of you know, everything that he did, the number one question is, what was the egg? What was it made of? And it is pretty like sort of obscure, like of a story, because you still never really find out like what it was. Like it doesn't even, it's like the story just kind of ends there. Like, and he never really goes into like what it was made out of, what it looked like. But it is this sort of like obscure kind of like urban legend that, yeah, you know, John Lennon saw this UFO, and then a couple weeks later would meet with Uri Geller and would hand him this cosmic egg that he claimed was given to him by extraterrestrials.
Weird, man. And like, is it something that, you know, people can see, or does he have like a...
No, I don't think so. I think it was just like sort of a story that maybe he told, you know, years ago, and it just like and I think that was part of it too, is John Lennon felt that like, hey, you need to hang on to this, because I don't know, I've heard it elsewhere too, that like there was a little bit of like fear, I think, from John Lennon as to like, I don't know what this is. I don't necessarily like want to be the one that's hanging on to it. And so what's interesting too is like he didn't even Uri Geller wouldn't even come out and talk about any of this publicly until after John Lennon passed away.
Wow.
But I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. I know we're both pretty big Beatles fans, especially you.
Yeah. I'd never heard of that, man.
Yeah. It's the UFO one is a little obscure, but the egg one is, I mean, it could all be fake, could all be total.
Yeah.
But
and so I see this picture of Yuri holding this golden egg.
I don't think that he's ever showed it. That could just be some, like, a publicity
thing
kind of deal. Because I don't think he's ever even explained, like, what it even looks like.
Weird, man.
Yeah.
So weird. But look, man, like we said earlier in the show, we are kind of pinched for time. Mm-hmm. And so, first and foremost, like you said also, man, thank you to everybody that has been sending us sending us messages and keeping us in your thoughts and your good vibes and your prayers and your whatever. Because it, you know, even though we may not be able to respond super quickly, you know, it definitely means the world to us. I mean, for real, like when you're kind of, as all of you know, because we all go through things, it can feel chaotic and kind of never ending in a way. And so to be kind of being able to ground yourself with some familiarity with people sending those kind of messages of love and support, it's just amazing. So
yeah,
thank you. And then next week we will definitely return with a full-fledged official episode that we already have planned out and ready to rock. And it's amazing. And I'm so glad. See, it's going to be one of those things where I bring it to the show, and Tyler doesn't know much about it, so I'm excited about that.
I like it. If you want to find us, you can jump on over to Instagram. That's where the bulk of our, I guess, social media presence is. Jump in the comment section. Join the family. The water's fine. If you have some stuff you want to tell us that you don't necessarily want to have, public in the comment section, shoot us a DM. If it's more of a long form thing and you're more of an email person, shoot it on over to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. But what's even more cool than all those things is our website, thatwouldberadpodcast.com, where you can get on up there and leave a 5-star review. You can jump on any of the numerous podcatchers to listen to any of our episodes, all the things there, and you can actually leave a voice recording or like a voice memo directly to the site where you're telling your story, of an urban legend that you remember maybe from the 80s, or maybe your own paranormal sort of story or scenario that you've caught yourself in. We love to hear that stuff, and the more the merrier. We welcome all that kind of stuff. Also, if you're just not getting enough from the main feed, join our Patreon, The Rabbit Trail. Like Woody said earlier, there's many tiers, to fit your financial situation. But boy, do we appreciate it. It means so much to us. It helps us. It's sort of that like real-time physical way of showing like your support for, creators these days. And so everybody that's a member of The Rabbit Trail, we love you so much. It means the world to us.
Absolutely.
You got anything else, Woody?
I think that's it, man.
I think I may actually try to catch the new Dungeons and Dragons movie.
So jealous, man.
I know. You should be. But anyway, we're glad to at least, be able to talk to you guys for a little bit and kind of explain the situation. And we again we want to apologize for a little bit of the radio silence because it's just been crazy around here. But I think we're all somewhat landing on our feet, and we're looking forward to get back to a consistent weekly basis thing. You got anything else, Woody?
That's it, man.
Okay, pal. Well,
you already asked me that question. So.
I love doing it because I feel like you're just sort of lulled by my my diatribe here at the end, and then it's like when I ask you that, it's like you just sort of snap out of it.
Yeah. No, I really don't. No.
We love you. We appreciate you, and as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. My favorite song on the radio. time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of flowers, but now all that's left is a single rose. That's the way it goes.
Access granted.
Dude, what about that Uri Geller story, man?
That's weird, man. I'd never heard of that, man.
Yeah, it's
I've
weird.
never even heard that guy's name. Here's part of the reason why, though, is because like after I was a huge fan of the Beatles, but I wasn't really ever a humongous fan of like John Lennon.
Yeah,
solo.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great songs, but I preferred like Paul McCartney and Wings.
Oh, dude, Wings had some great songs.
Yeah, man. And I mean, like that. I know we've talked about this. I definitely don't think we've talked about it on the show, but I could be wrong. It just rings a bell. But that first tour Wings did in America, before they like even booked a lot of venues and stuff, they would just travel around and play in high school parking lots, bro.
Yeah.
So imagine being a high schooler, only like a year or two after the Beatles' final album, basically. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you hear this like music coming out in the parking lot. You're like, what's going on, man? That sounds pretty cool. Freaking Paul McCartney's out there.
Well, and also another little fun fact, I think he would actually not really wear like a disguise, but I think like, because nobody knew what was going on really.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the internet. So like,
exactly.
He'd have like a hat and like the collar pulled up on his jacket and like the beard and everything. And like, for the long, I would imagine like people showing up to like watch this musician play. It's like, you're just not thinking, oh, that's Paul McCartney, because he's got glasses and a hat and everything. And like, just imagine how badass that would be to like be watching a show, and then about the second song in, you're like, wait a minute, who is this? Who does this sound like? And then realizing, oh my God, it's Paul McCartney.
Yeah, no kidding, man. It's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
Devil comes in all shapes and sizes. Yeah, she whispers in your ear in the dark. She may wear a red dress with a black one you bought her, and she'll dance till the moon gives up, and the stars in the sky shine upon you. Willows seem to call your name. The preacher man sings hallelujah. He says, God save this boy once again. Oh Lord, won't you save me? the stars in the sky shine upon you. The willows seem to call your name. The preacher man sings hallelujah. He says, God save this boy once again. Oh Lord, won't you save me? Oh Lord, I'm lost. Sweet Lord, please forgive